The hour of convening having arrived. All members of the House will please report to the floor and take your seats. All members of this House will please report to the floor and take seats. Mr. Clerk, would you ring the bell, please? All members, please report to the floor and take seats. We are going to have the morning roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Well, good morning. That was a little weak. Good morning. It's better. Welcome to Legislative Day 5. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Before we have our devotion, I want to extend a welcome back to our minority leader who is back after a vacation. He defied his doctor's orders to rest until April or May. I hope there's no complications from that, Mr. Leader. When we go to have our devotion this morning, I'm going to ask you to keep Chairman John Corbett and his family in your thoughts and prayers. Chairman Corbett lost his dad over the weekend, and he's something you never get ready to have happen. We will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. You got a real treat for chaplain this morning, and he will be introduced by the gentleman from the 69th House District, Chairman Randy Nix. Chairman Nix.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this session, I believe it was Representative Bruce Williamson introduced the chaplain of the day, and he said, "I have known him all my life." Well, today I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to say that I have known him all of his life. Now, I know a little bit about this fella. He comes from a good family. Now, his mother is a good woman, I guarantee you. But I've been told that there are a lot of people that think the jury's still out on his dad. But for those of you who don't know, this is my son. Before I tell you a little bit about him, let me introduce his family. Of course, the good woman that's his mother is my wife, Debbie. She's here. Stand up, Sarah, his wife, is here. Jasper, his son, is here. Layla, his daughter, is here. Barrett, his son, is here. And Duncan, his son, is here. Will you guys stand up, okay? And Barrett and Duncan are going to be paging for us today as well. So they call this group the Nick Six. So we've got the Nick Six with us today. Jess was in the 6th grade when we moved to Georgia from Alabama. Jess graduated from LaGrange High School. He went on to Samford University in Birmingham to graduate there, and then he went on to the University of Alabama Law School, where he has his degree. When Jess was in law school, and for a while after he practiced law, he was the pastor of Briarfield Baptist Church in Briarfield, which is just south of Birmingham. Since that time, they have become members of Vestavia Hills Baptist Church, where Jess is the chairman of deacons. I know he's held a number of different positions in the church there in leadership, but now he is chairman of their deacons. Over 7 years ago, he and Sarah started a new class for young adults, and that class became one of the fastest growing classes in their church. The thing I'll tell you about Jess is Jess will not use the literature that they give to him. He writes his own Sunday school lessons every week. So I would say that he probably spends more time doing that than most pastors do preparing their sermon. Jess is a real student of the Bible, and I think he proves that you don't necessarily have to be in the pulpit every Sunday to have a ministry and an impact on lives. And I can't wait to see what he's got to say for us today, so let me present my son, Jess Nix, as chaplain of the day.
Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen in this honorable house, Dad, people in the gallery, thank you so much for having me here. It's a true honor to be here, and it's a double honor to be invited back to do this. I did this about 13 years ago. This is the first time that my family's been here, which is a terrific honor to be able to be here with all my children, none of whom were born the last time. So thank you. It's a wonderful day for me, and I just want to share some of that joy with you. Today I want us to think a little bit about the roles that we all have. You know, Dad was saying I was a pastor. He was kind enough not to say the church I had was a church of about 6 people. So we were not a very large church. We were a very close church. The youngest member of my congregation besides my wife and I was 50 years old. And I will say we have kept up with them. We love them dearly. Then when I left that church and went to the church I go to now and started a Sunday school class, we started from scratch, and we've got, close to 40 people on roll. So what I've learned is I'm apparently a much better Sunday school teacher than pastor. And I'm okay with that. Sometimes God uses us in different roles than perhaps we would like. Sometimes he makes us more effective when we take different positions than if we got to pick them, when we let him pick them for us. So today, I want to talk to you a little bit about one of the roles that you all play. It's one that you all know well, but I bet it's not one that you hear too much talked about. So I am a lawyer by trade, so I want to begin by reading Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 9 of the Georgia Constitution. I'm sure you can all quote it. That guarantees that the people have the right, quote, to apply by petition or remonstrance to those vested with the powers of government for redress of grievances. Now, to put that in just plain old English and to tell you how it applies to you, the people of Georgia have the right to complain to you when they think something is not right. And when you think about it, that means that the mayors of the communities in your districts have the ability to ask for your help in getting state funding for a local initiative. It means that local business leaders can help your assistance in working through a permitting issue. It means that environmental activists can ask you, could you please help them clean up a state park? I'm sure that you get all those requests, and I'm sure that we all recognize that your help with those requests makes your district and this state a better place. We can all appreciate that. But that's actually not what I want to talk to you this morning about. I want you to think about some other requests that you get. And as you know firsthand, the right to petition in the Georgia Constitution does not restrict who can petition, nor does it restrict what they can ask you to help them with. So the reason I know that is through phone calls with my dad. These calls usually start with my dad asking some sort of very deep question about the law. He'll call me up and say, Jess, got a question. Is it really true? I'm just giving an example that didn't really happen, but it could have. Is it really true that you cannot wear pink underwear to duck hunt in South Georgia? And I'll talk to him and I'll say, well, Dad, number one, I don't give out free legal advice, so take it for what it's worth. Number two, if you get indicted for this, I guess I'll try to represent you. But, after I clear that, he tells me, well, I didn't figure it did, but somebody asked me. And he'll say, somebody, one of my constituents asked me that question, and I felt like I needed to just double check that I was not missing something. And I'll assure him that he was not. And I bet that we could spend all day swapping stories between all of you for requests that you've received from constituents. Requests that perhaps didn't make the greatest bit of sense and that you probably didn't have the ability to help with. But requests that you receive nonetheless. Now, I want you to think about what you do with those requests. Because I'll tell you the one thing, and I don't want to give him a big head, but one thing I admire Dad for is he responds to them. He will actually email or call or write back to everybody who makes a request of him, whether it makes any sense or not. And the reason I know that is because my mother and I will look at him and say, what are you doing? You don't need to respond to that. You have nothing you can do to help. Not only do you have nothing you do to help, it's clear that whatever has been asked, it doesn't make any sense. And he doesn't listen to us. And he responds anyway. And I just want to draw your attention to those kinds of requests. To think through those times when you get those requests, and guess what? They're not going to help your district. They're probably not going to help you get elected again. They're not going to get you a vote. They're not going to do much of anything. But there's somebody out there reaching out to you, and they're asking for your help with something that they think is a problem. So, with those ideas in mind, let's think a little bit about some of Jesus' ministry that we know about. So if we start with the Gadarene demoniac, we're told from Luke that he was naked and he had no home to go to because he lived in the tombs. And Mark chimes in that he could not be bound even by chains and that he spent all day cutting himself. And Jesus reached out to him. And Jesus brought him back to the fold, so to speak. Let's talk about the famous woman at the well. So Jesus, when he goes to talk to her and they're talking about living water, he says, go get your husband. And she says, I have no husband. He said, you're right. You've had 5. And the man you're living with now is not your husband. And Jesus sits there and he talks to her and he meets her needs. Let's remember a little more broadly that one of the complaints about Jesus from the religious leaders, from the people who held power, was that he was always eating with tax collectors and sinners. He was associating with the people you did not associate if you were one of the people in power. And let's remember that Jesus' response to that is that it's not the healthy that need a doctor, but the sick. And that he came not to call the righteous, but sinners. And while I recognize that Jesus had a divine ability to heal and to intervene in situations that none of us have, I think that it would be an injustice to think that his ministry did not take a toll on him. That even reaching out to these people wasn't difficult for him. If you look after the big events in his life, so let's take the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus feeds the 5,000 and it says he withdrew to a mountain by himself. He needed some space. Mark 1 records that one evening after sunset, an entire town gathered at Jesus' door where he was staying, and he healed people of diseases and he drove out demons. The very next verse tells us that early the following morning, Jesus went to a solitary place to pray. He needed to get himself back in order. He was tired. He had worked hard. Additionally, I think we have to keep in mind that when we read about the things that Jesus did, we're given a snapshot, right? We're told Jesus reached out and healed this person. We're not then given that person's biography as they went forward. I think we know enough people in our churches in our synagogues, in the places where we worship, who are very, committed on Sunday, and on Monday you'd never know it. And I think we can posit that human nature being what it is, even some of the people that were touched by Jesus went back to their old ways. He would say, go forth and sin no more. He didn't say go forth because now you will never sin. So even Jesus realized, and I think we can take it as a surety knowing human nature, that even the people that he would reach, that may be a temporary thing, and that they may go right back to where they were before. I think that's why we learn in why we hear Paul say in Galatians to all of us, do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And so this morning, I want to offer you that encouragement. Don't grow weary in doing good, and particularly don't grow weary in doing good to those constituents who bring requests to you that may make no sense, that you may not have the ability to help with. The Georgia Constitution gives those people the right to petition their government, and the constituents of your district have designated you the person that those people should report to. You have been put in a position to help those people uniquely. When I talk about roles, that is a unique role that you have. And then we take the example of Jesus and the people that he reached out to and the ministry that he had, and Jesus gives us all the example, he gives us the call, and he gives us the encouragement that whether it is the most powerful person in your district or the person that everybody else walks by, all of them are your constituents, and all of them have needs that you uniquely may be able to help. So as elected representatives, I hope that you will take that unique position and opportunity to serve and help the people that no one else will. And my hope and prayer is that you will make the most of it. So I hope that you will join me in prayer now. Lord, I pray your blessing on this body of elected officials. Give them wisdom as they wade through difficult and profound issues of law and public policy in their work in this chamber. Help them to be patient with and attentive to one another as they work together for the good of this state and their districts. I also ask that you guide them as they serve the people living in their districts. Encourage and strengthen them to serve all of their constituents, from the most powerful to the most overlooked. Give them compassion, understanding, and inspiration to never grow weary in doing good. In your name we pray. Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you. Thank you.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. The chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair on the Committee of Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits read the proceedings of the previous legislative day and found them to be correct.
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, the 159th. Mr. Burns, the 159th. Mr. Burns. Morning, sir. Mr. Burns, the 159th. Moves that the following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 743 by Representative Mitchell, the 88th, Carpenter the 4th, Hill the 3rd, Kirby the 114th, Jaspers the 11th, and others. A bill being titled an act to amend of Chapter 3 of Title 20, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to post-secondary education.
Higher education.
House Bill 786 by Representative Welch, the 110th, Douglas the 78th, Rutledge the 109th, Holly the 111th, Mathiak the 73rd, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Code Section 1562, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to the number of judges of superior courts.
Judiciary.
House Bill 787 by Representative Ballinger, the 23rd, Jaspers the 11th, Powell the 32nd, Momtahan of the 17th, LaHood of the 175th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Code Section 1611-126, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to having or carrying handguns.
Public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 788 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Rhodes of the 120th, Carpenter the 4th, Bonner of the 70th, 2nd, LaHood of the 175th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Code Section 48.8.33.2 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to definitions, exemptions, and applicability.
Ways and means.
House Bill 789 by Representative Newton of the 123rd, Jones of the 47th, Hatchett of the 150th, Gaines of the 117th, Wiedauer of the 119th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 20C of Title 33 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to accurate provider directories.
Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care.
House Bill 790 by Representative Smith of the 133rd, Powell of the 32nd, Harrell of the 106th, Carpenter of the 4th. Bill being titled an act to amend Title 43 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to professions and businesses.
Regulated industries.
House Bill 791 by Representative Stevens, the 164th. Bill being titled an act to amend Code Section 26.480 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to license requirements for practice of pharmacy.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 792 by Representative Ralston, the 7th, Jones, the 47th, Burns, the 159th, England, and the 116th. The bill being titled an act to amend an act making and providing appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1, 2019.
Appropriations.
House Bill 793 by Representative Ralston, the 7th, Jones, the 47th, Burns, the 159th, England, and the 116th. Bill being titled an act to make and provide appropriations for state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020.
Appropriations.
House Bill 794 by Representative Ralston of the 7th, Jones of the 47th, Burns of the 159th, and England of the 116th. Bill being titled an act to amend an act making and providing appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019.
Appropriations.
House Bill 795 by Representative Ralston of the 7th, Jones of the 47th, Burns of the 159th, England of the 116th. Bill being titled an act to amend an act making and providing appropriations for state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019.
Appropriations.
House Bill 796 by Representative Ralston of the 7th, Jones of the 47th, Burns of the 159th, and England of the 116th. Bill being to make and provide appropriations for state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020.
Appropriations.
House Bill 797 by Representative Ralston of the 7th, Jones of the 47th, Burns of the 159th, England of the 116th. Bill to make and provide appropriations for the state fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2020.
Appropriations.
House Bill 798 by Representative Dollar of the 45th, Williams of the 148th, Hughley of the 136th, and Hogan of the 179th. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 5 of Chapter 9 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to assigned risk plans.
Insurance.
House Bill 799 by Representative Blackman of the 146th, the Saints of the 180th, Kendrick of the 93rd, Corbett of the 174th, and Kelly of the 16th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 3A of Chapter 5 of Title 40 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating the suspension of license.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 800 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Thomas the 56th, Kendrick of the 93rd, Stovall the 74th, and Thomas the 39th, and others. Bill being titled an act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 4, Title 49 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to medical assistance generally.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 801 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Thomas the 56th, Davis of the 87th, Schofield of the 60th, and Hutchinson of the 107th. Bill being titled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to the regulation and construction of hospitals.
Health and Human Services.
House Resolution 910 by Representative McLaurin of the 51st, Holcomb of the 81st, Oliver of the 82nd, Couch of the 50th, Clark of the 108th, and others. A resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution.
Transportation.
House Resolution 911 by Representative Schofield of the 60th and Dreyer of the 59th. A resolution urging the Georgia Department of Transportation to erect sound barriers for the city of Hakeville.
Transportation.
House Resolution 912 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, and Petrie, the 166th. A resolution recognizing Mr. Jimmy Burnsit and dedicating a road in his honor.
Transportation.
House Resolution 913 by Representative Stevens, the 164th, and Petrie, the 166th. A resolution recognizing Mr. Harold Fowler and Mr. Jimmy Burnsit and dedicating a bridge in their honor.
Transportation.
House Resolution 929 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Scott of the 76th, Thomas the 56th, and Stevens the 164th. A resolution encouraging the state of Georgia to establish a Georgia Gula Geechee Heritage Society.
Special rules.
House Resolution 930 by Representative Gilliard of the 162nd, Clark of the 108th, Hitchens the 161st, and Stevens the 164th. A resolution encouraging the state of Georgia to endorse the Stand for Forest platform and its objectives.
Natural Resources and Environment.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 775 by Representative Mitchell of the 88th, a bill relating to property tax exemptions and deferral. House Bill 776 by Representative Mitchell of the 88th, a bill relating to mortgages, conveyances to secure debt and liens. House Bill 777 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Burns of the 159th, McCall of the 33rd, England of the 116th, Smith of the 70th, and others. A bill relating to standards and requirements for construction, alteration of buildings and other structures. House Bill 778 by Representative Turner of the 21st, a bill relating to ad valorem tax exemptions. House Bill 779 by Representative Blackman of the 146th, Williamson of the 115th, Carson of the 46th, Fry of the 118th, Stevens of the 164th, a bill relating to alternative ad valorem taxes on motor vehicles. House Bill 780 by Representative Perkle of the 155th, Green of the 151st, Lott of the 122nd, Lumsden of the 12th, a bill relating to powers and duties of the State Properties Commission. House Bill 781 by Representative Williamson of the 115th, Frazier of the 126th, Ridley of the 6th, Houston of the 170th, a bill relating to financial institutions. House Bill 782 by Representative McLeod of the 105th, Paris of the 142nd, Stovall of the 74th, Glanton of the 75th, Fry of the 118th, and others, a bill relating to holidays and observances. House Bill 783 by Representative Thomas of the 39th, Bodie of the 62nd, Gordon of the 163rd, Scott of the 76th, Hutchinson of the 107th, and others, a bill relating to education. House Bill 784 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th, Jaspers of the 11th, Hitchens of the 161st, Wedower of the 119th, Gaines of the 117th, and others, a bill relating to open and public meetings. House Bill 785 by Representative Gullett of the 19th, Jones of the 25th, Rogers of the 10th, Reeves of the 34th, Washburn of the 141st, and others, a bill relating to clerks of superior courts. House Resolution 896 by Representative Petrie of the 166th, Stevens of the 164th, Hitchens of the 161st, Gilliard of the 162nd, Gordon of the 163rd. Resolution recognizing the life of Mr. James Jimmy Allen Petrie and dedicating a bridge in his honor. Through second readers.
There are no reports of standing committees. No standing committee reports. All right, we're going on now to morning orders. We have a large number of members who have signed up for morning orders. Under the rules of the House, the total time to be allocated is 20 minutes. Given the number of members who have signed up, the chair will limit each member to 1 minute. 1 minute each. Chair recognizes Chairman Silcox for a morning order. House will come to order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I stand to honor the 6 million victims of the Holocaust and to recognize the group of men and women who are here today to celebrate International Holocaust Remembrance Day at the Georgia State Capitol. In April of 1945, President Dwight D. Eisenhower wrote to George C. Marshall, "The things I saw beggar description. The visual evidence and the verbal testimony of starvation, cruelty, and bestiality were so overpowering as to leave me a bit sick. I made the visit deliberately in order to be in position to give firsthand evidence of these things if ever in the future there develops a tendency to charge these allegations merely to propaganda. I am here to assure you that we in Georgia will never forget what our Jewish brothers and sisters went through. We, as Americans and as Georgians, must condemn all forms of religious intolerance based on ethnicity or religious belief. Our Constitution protects our right to freedom of religion, and we must take this day to remember those who suffered the most because of their beliefs. May God bless their memory."
Chair recognizes for a morning order Representative Walensky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the reasons we all serve...
Just a minute, Representative. This House will be at order during morning orders. If you have other matters to attend to, then please take them outside the chamber. Gentleman may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One of the reasons we all serve is for our families. It is a top priority of Georgians. Today, I must share that my family tree has branches that don't exist anymore. My great-grandmother had 10 brothers and sisters. I should have 50 to 100 more cousins, but 7 of those 11 siblings and 42 of my relatives were murdered in the Holocaust. 42. My great-uncle Martin survived the Auschwitz death camp. So did my great-aunt Rose. I will never forget seeing the tattoo on my great-uncle Martin's wrist he received from the concentration camp. Today is the day set aside around the world to remember the Holocaust. It's not to ask for guilt or sadness. It's not about rehashing the past. See, at one time it was easy. At one time it was easy. Those who survived could share their story. We must not let the horror of 75 years ago fade, because there are few to remember the story firsthand. Recently, we were reminded with attacks against the Jewish community. My community has been forced to put tremendous resources and police protection at synagogues. It shocks me that in Georgia, that anybody needs protection to pray due to hate. We relearn this lesson of the past today because this is not about the Jews. In addition to 6 million Jews who were killed, there were 5 million others killed in the Holocaust at least, solely because of their ethnicity, political beliefs, sexual orientation, or religion, including Catholic priests. Today, hatred is rising against many different groups. We must remember that we cannot just stand up for our own. We must support anyone who's being treated with hate. Today, we must relearn this lesson of the past now before we learn a terrible lesson of the future. This session, let us fight every kind of hate, and let's do it together. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, members of the House and guests. Today I stand before you to share a memory. As a child, while in grade school, I had a friend. I'll call him David, just another kid from the neighborhood, but he was a great guy. His parents were quiet, and they didn't always come around when the other parents did. I remember his father especially, for he had a funny scar on his arm. At the time, I didn't think much about it, but as a teenager, I read the book, The Diary of Anne Frank. and I realized it wasn't a scar at all. It was a tattoo, a series of numbers. He was a survivor of a German concentration camp. So that we never forget today, I share a quote from Anne Frank. You know, for such a young person, she was very wise. But as Da Vinci said, wisdom is the daughter of experience, and may we never have to experience what she did. Her message needs repeating. She wrote, "What is done cannot be undone, but one can prevent it ever happening again." I ask that we all remember and never let it happen again. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Al Williams and Representative Jones for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of this esteemed body. Last Thursday, January 23rd, Long County Deputy Sheriff Sheldon Gordon Whitman was killed in the line of duty, serving his county and his fellow citizens in a high-speed chase through Long County into McIntosh. The deputy sheriff is survived by his wife and 4 children. Just if you'll join me in a moment of silence in remembrance of Long County Deputy Sheriff Sheldon Gordon Whitman. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gerald Green for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. Today we celebrate Southwest Georgia Day here at the Capitol. The region of Southwest Georgia is rich with red Georgia clay and produces major crops that contribute to Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. While farming is part of the fabric of Southwest Georgia, we're also open for business. And I want to thank all the local governments, chambers of commerce, our local health care system, Phoebe Putney, Andrew College, the Boys and Girls Club, Albany State University, United Way of Southwest Georgia, and also STEM. And we also have the Smithsonian Traveling Exhibit here, and we would love for you to come down on the second floor and join us. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to end a feud here at the Capitol. I'd like to ask that Representative Randy Nix, Chairman, would he come up? We have from Southwest Georgia the
This is
rum cake.
highly unusual.
And this was done by Spiro's wife, April. She had a hard time with the rum in there because it kept disappearing as Spiro moved through the house. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative.
And I hope he'll do the Christian thing and share it.
The Teetotalers Caucus gets the first shot at it, though.
Chair recognizes Representative Casey Carpenter for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, guys, I come before you today to tell you some great news. I don't know if any of you watched the Pro Bowl last night, but Coach Matt Lamb from Dalton, Georgia, won the Don Shula Award for the best high school coach in the United States last night. Super proud of him. He's coached in Dalton for 25 years. He was my position coach when I played, and we can't be more than excited for what he's done for our community and how well he represented us in Orlando yesterday. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Hutchinson for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welcome, colleagues, back to our session. I would like to start again with our children that we have adopted, ready for adoption in Georgia. Today, I want to talk to you about Selena, who's 16 years old, Christina, who's 12, and Dominic, who's 10. Selena is a smart girl who's currently enrolled in JROTC. She plans to join the military to become a lawyer and help kids like her through the adoption and foster care process. She has great grades and is well behaved. Christina is a loving, creative, and energetic child who is protective of her brother and sister. She enjoys doing arts and crafts. Dominic is a polite and well-mannered boy who enjoys sports, especially basketball. He likes to play on his tablet. This group needs an attentive, supportive, and encouraging family who's able to keep them connected with their adult sister. And I would like to say on a personal note, one of my most favorite jobs as a social worker was to do adoption recruitment activities for children who, particularly for sibling groups. Some research will tell us that sibling group bonds are just as strong as a parent bond. And to keep a sibling group like this together is of the utmost importance. So I encourage you to talk to your friends and family about adoption. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan and Representative Jones for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. The Brunswick Golden Isles Chamber is here today, so if you see them around in the Capitol, sort of lost, show them the way. And would you please stand, members of the Brunswick Golden Isles Chamber, and we'd like to welcome you. Thank you for coming, and we enjoyed last night with you too. And I think, I don't see Woody Woodside, but he's supposed to be with them, but welcome to the Chamber, and y'all have a good time while you're here.
Chair recognizes Chairman Cantrell for a morning order.
Good morning, colleagues. I got a two-part morning order for you this morning. First of all, I want to stand before you today and honor the real Wes Cantrell. Now, many of you know me by that name, but the real Wes Cantrell at my house is my father. He's a Georgia native, came from humble beginnings, the son of two public school educators who rose to eventually become the president and CEO of a billion-dollar international corporation, and he turned 85 years of age yesterday. He was the best man at my wedding, not because he's my dad, but because he's literally the best man that I know. So, colleagues, would you join with me in wishing my father a happy 85th birthday today? Thank you. The second part of my morning order is to remind you, you should have had a flyer on your desk about the free showing of Just Mercy this Wednesday afternoon, 5:30 p.m. at the Landmark Theater, about 3 miles from here. This showing is brought to you by a generous gift from Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. No media, no lobbyists, just us. Come join us.
Chair recognizes Representative Erica Thomas and Representative Bennett for a morning order.
Colleagues, if you would like to join me. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always. Spaces filled with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. On yesterday, we lost a legend, husband, father, friend, and mentor. Kobe Bryant, NBA MVP, and lifelong LA Laker will truly be missed. Kobe's work ethic on and off the court exemplified nothing short of greatness. Our world lost a leader. We pray for the Bryant, Mosser, Chester, Abbatibili, and Soblin families. Thank you so much. And on behalf of Black Caucus, will you please give us a moment of silence? Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative McLaurin for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to honor and express support in the strongest terms for public defenders. What do they defend? They defend the Constitution. The Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution guarantees adequate, effective legal representation to every person charged with a crime. Our system is built on the idea of adversarial process. We pit forces against each other in an attempt to find the truth, but that only works when both sides have a fighting chance. In Georgia, defenders do their jobs without resources that they need. They don't make as much as their counterparts, the prosecution. They certainly don't get as much prestige. They have hundreds of cases open at any given time, mere minutes to prepare with clients. They don't have resources to spend on things like expert witnesses, to travel to interview witnesses, or to do other work on cases that they need to do because they're forced to dedicate limited resources to only what they feel are the most deserving. That's not what the Constitution requires. We ask public defenders to stand in the breach for us, to do their best to uphold the system, to withstand furloughs and funding shortfalls, even where we're failing them. So I stand today to support public defenders. We stand today, and we pray that the House does and will too. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Kendrick for a morning order.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. I am giving you your black fact for today because every day is a day for Black history. And you'll want to tune in to the end because there's a special Georgia connection that many of you don't know about. So Brown versus Board of Education was a landmark case in the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the state laws establishing racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional, even if the segregated schools are otherwise equal in equality. This case originated in 1951 when the public school district in Topeka, Kansas refused to enroll the daughter of local Black resident Oliver Brown at the school closest to their home, instead requiring her to ride a bus to a segregated Black elementary school further away. The court's decision in Brown partially overturned Plessy versus Ferguson by declaring that separate but equal notion was unconstitutional for American public schools and educational facilities. It paved the way for integration and a major victory for the civil rights movement. 4 years later, in the case of Cooper versus Aaron, the court reaffirmed its ruling in Brown, and we have a Georgia connection in Brown versus Board. Our very own Representative Viola Davis, which I don't know where she is, but she is actually one of the plaintiffs in that historic case, so take some time to hear from her about changing U.S. history. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
House will continue to be at order. House will continue to be at order. The clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 931.
House Resolution 931 by Representative Silcox, the 52nd. A resolution recognizing January 27th, 2020 is International Holocaust Remembrance Day and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Silcox for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, as we celebrate International Holocaust Remembrance Day, I have some special guests that I would like to introduce. First, Sally Levine, who's Executive Director of the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust. Next, Chair of the Board of Directors for the Commission, Dr. Claire D'Agostino. And then from the Israeli Consulate, Mr. Harold Hirschberg, Director of Government and Political Affairs. Then Mr. Alex Gandler, who's Deputy Consul General for Israel. And last but not least, the new Consul General of Israel to the Southeast United States as of July, Ms. Anat Sultan Dedan. Consul General Sultan Dedan began in the Israeli Diplomatic Corps in 2004 and has also served in Cameroon, the Netherlands, Germany, and Australia. She holds both bachelor's and master's degrees from the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. She is married, and she and her husband have 3 daughters. Consul General Sultan Dedan, I would like to present to you this resolution as passed by the Georgia House of Representatives commemorating the International Holocaust Remembrance Day and the 75th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. Please welcome the Consul General for her remarks.
Thank you. Speaker Ralston, Madam Chair, members of the Georgia State House, thank you for the honor to be able to address you on behalf of the State of Israel on this very important day as we mark the International Holocaust Remembrance Day and 75 years to the liberation of the Auschwitz concentration camp. On the day of liberation, approximately 7,000 survivors were liberated. That is what had remained of over 1 million Jews who had been deported there. From 1941 to 1945, 6 million Jews were systematically murdered throughout Nazi Germany and German-occupied territories in what would become the largest genocide and the darkest of chapters in history. Holocaust scholar Professor Yehuda Bauer, while delivering a speech to the German Bundestag in 1998, said, "I come from a people who gave the 10 Commandments to the world. Time has come to strengthen them by 3 additional ones, which we ought to adopt and commit ourselves to. Thou shalt not be a perpetrator, thou shalt not be a victim, and thou shalt never, but never, be a bystander." Just last week, we received in Israel over 40 world leaders who took part in the 5th World Holocaust Forum in Jerusalem, among them United States Vice President Mike Pence and Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The attendance of so many world leaders reflected the important recognition of the global responsibility and commitment to Holocaust remembrance and to combating anti-Semitism. 75 years after the end of the Holocaust, we know all too well that anti-Semitism is unfortunately not confined to the books of history. There are those who still today seek the destruction of the Jewish people and Israel, the nation-state of the Jewish people. Globally, including in the United States, the alarming rise in expressions of anti-Semitism is a further reminder of the vital importance of educating about the Holocaust, of educating about the dangers of anti-Semitism, racism, xenophobia, and all forms of hate. The state of Georgia's commitment to Holocaust remembrance and education is well reflected in the Georgia Commission on the Holocaust, made a permanent state agency in 1998 by act of the Georgia General Assembly. Today on the Capitol, Holocaust survivors and liberators from Georgia will be honored on panels to be hung and unveiled. Such actions taken by Georgia for remembrance and education are of immense importance when we speak of never again. As I stand here today, I am not only grateful for Georgia's commitment to Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism, I am also grateful for the strong bilateral relations that Israel and Georgia enjoy on so many levels. I'm proud to represent Israel here in Georgia and proud that we have a consulate in Atlanta since 1956, a testimony to the importance that Israel attaches to the relations with the great state of Georgia. The state of Georgia's Department of Economic Development has had representation in Israel since 1994, recognizing the great value and potential in our bilateral economic relations. Our economic cooperation for the benefit of both our peoples continues to grow, as do academic exchanges, cultural relations, and so much more. There is still more room to further strengthen and deepen the relations, and I look forward to working with all of you towards enhancing the state of Israel's relations with the great state of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you. You step towards them and we'll get a picture together with the speaker. Yeah. Get the speaker in there too. Can you get...
Thank you. I think I'll see you at 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, yeah. Good to see you again. Good to see you. Good to see you. House will continue to be at order. House will continue to be at order. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 932.
House Resolution 932 by Representative Mitchell, the 88th, a resolution recognizing and commending Bishop Reginald Jackson and the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Representative Billy Mitchell for an invite resolution.
First of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you and your office, as well as Chairman Benton's office, for helping us to put this together. Today is African Methodist Episcopal Church Day at the Capitol. The AME Church was founded in 1816 and has grown to over 3 million members and 7,000 congregations worldwide, 500 congregations in Georgia. Bishop Jackson is the presiding prelate over the 6th Episcopal District. He certainly brings a wealth of activism in issues affecting the church and social issues. Without further ado, and Mr. Speaker, if I may be allowed, I'd like to recognize some of the AME members in this congregation. We have Representative Calvin Smyrie, Representative Karen Benton, Representative Marie Metz, Representative Abel Mabel Thomas, and I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, and former Representative D. Dawkins Hagler is a member of the AME Church as well. And we have Representative Pam Stevenson and Representative Dexter Sharper, but I believe some of them were missing their tithes and offerings, Mr. Speaker. But nonetheless, nonetheless, I present to you the presiding prelate of the 6th Episcopal District, Bishop Reginald Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Speaker Ralston and members of the House of Representatives, let me thank you for this opportunity and say it is my delight and my joy to be here with you today. Today is AME Day here at the State House, and we are fortunate that AMEs from all over the state of Georgia came to be with us today. And just let me ask you to wave your hand.
Yes, look at that.
The AME Church, the first Protestant denomination formed on American soil, has always had a commitment to education and to social justice. And it is in that light that we ask every year for AMEs to come to the State House, one, to see how our government works and interact with the leaders who help shape policy and pass laws in Georgia. I want to especially thank the House of Representatives here in Georgia for passing what we believe is a very, very important piece of legislation. For 2 years, this House has passed hate crimes legislation. I think it's important. Georgia is one of only 4 states in the nation that does not have a hate crimes law. I think it's important that we send a message that hate and racism, anti-Semitism will not be tolerated in the state of Georgia. So I want to thank the House for the leadership you have demonstrated on this issue, and pray that you will be able to convince your colleagues across the hall to do likewise. Over and over again in my mind, I keep hearing Jesus say, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth." That's what we are committed to, that God's will be done on earth. Again, thank you for this opportunity. Let me thank all the AMEs for coming. Let me thank all of the members of the AME Church who serve in the Georgia House of Representatives. Thank you so much, and all the best as you serve this state and its people. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Sheila Jones to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Hey Sheila, I'm good. I hope you are.
Yes, my knee bothering me though. I'm doing good. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today's Doctor of the Day is Dr. Scott Swayze, MD. Dr. O. Scott Swayze, MD, is the former president and a member of the Pinnacle Orthopedics and has been providing orthopedic care to patients of Pinnacle Orthopedics since he joined the group in 1992. He specializes in general orthopedics, total joint replacement, and sports medicine. Dr. Swayze received his BS in biomedical engineering from Vanderbilt University and his medical degree from the University of Mississippi. His general surgery internship and his orthopedic surgery residency were both completed at Emory University affiliated hospitals. Dr. Swayze is a member of the Wellstar Board of Trustees and is a member of several local, state, and national orthopedic associations. He has also been the team physician for many local schools and sporting events. Dr. Swayze currently lives in Atlanta, Georgia with his wife, Carol. In his free time, he enjoys traveling, church, and activities with his 5 children. Let us welcome our Doctor of the Day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and Representative Jones. As a patient, as a surgeon, and as a board member of a hospital, it is a challenge, certainly, with healthcare in Georgia these days to provide affordable access for every Georgian. But I thank you for all the work you are doing and will do during this session. And if you need any help, we're at the medical aid station today. Thank you.
The clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Congratulating Robert and Linda Nickel on the birth of their son. Recognizing January 21st, 2020 as Tourism, Hospitality, and Arts Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing and honoring January 28th, 2020 as Korean American Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing and commending Reverend Dr. Joe Samuel Ratliff on the occasion of his 40th pastoral anniversary. Recognizing and commending the Clayton County Senior Services Department. Commending the Georgia House of Representatives and the Georgia Economic Developers Association on their efforts to improve the economic development climate of the state of Georgia. Recognizing the long and steady friendship between Georgia and Japan. Honoring the life and memory of Sherry Thornton Mallory. Commending Teresa Wing on her 30 years of service to Gwinnett County Public Schools. Honoring the life and memory of Lena Baker. Commending the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Commending and congratulating Andrew Hagsberg. Commending and congratulating Daniel Orta. Commending and congratulating David Putman. Commending and congratulating Vinny Anziano. Commending and congratulating Robert Persons. Commending and congratulating Kessler Higdon. Honoring the life and memory of James Harold Shepard Jr., co-founder and chairman of the board of directors of the Shepard Center. Congratulating and commending Banks County High School's Lady Leopards for securing the Class 2A state title. Commending the Augusta chapter of Jack and Jill of America Incorporated for his outstanding achievements. Recognizing and commending Terry D. Elam upon the grand occasion of his retirement. Congratulating and commending Twiggs Academy. Commending Habersham County, recognizing February 19, 2020 as Habersham County Day at the State Capitol. recognizing and commending the State YMCA of Georgia and its Center for Civic Engagement and the Y Club programs, which sponsor youth assembly, among other programs that cultivate youth civic engagement. And for other purposes, that completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privileged resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. We have a birthday today. I'm going to give him a present and pronounce his name correctly. Representative Greg Kennard, happy birthday to you. We're going on now to announcements. First of all, if you have pages, you need to be up here at the rostrum with the pages. We're doing page photographs a little bit quick today. Chair recognizes Chairman Beverly, the chair of the Minority Caucus, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Georgia House Democratic Caucus will be meeting immediately upon adjournment in room 216. We will have lunch, room 216, immediately upon adjournment. Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the chair of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee, Chairman Hitchens, for an announcement.
There'll be a joint meeting of the House and Senate Public Safety Committees at 1:30 in Capitol 450. The GBI is going to put on a program about gang activity in the state of Georgia.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey for an announcement.
Good morning. On your desk, members, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for calling on me. On your desk, you will find this about lunch today. I know there are a lot of meetings going on and you might not be able to eat, but if you love babies, if you love children, you should make it a point to cross the street and go hug a few of them. There's some great pictures. You can see them right there. As I look at it, looks like they took pictures of 2 senators last year. So let's see what we can do about getting some House members to go across the street and support the great work that Gears does and the mothers that are here with their children and their strollers to remind us of how important they are in every decision we make. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Wilkerson for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Cobb County Legislative Delegation will meet at noon in CLOB 605, and lunch will be served. We're going to hear from Kennesaw State University and Chattahoochee Tech. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Penny Houston for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Economic Development Subcommittee and Appropriations will meet this afternoon at 1 o'clock and 5:15 CLOB. Thank you.
Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m., Tuesday, January the 28th, 2020.
The majority leader has moved that this House be adjourned until Tuesday, January 28 at 10 a.m. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be adjourned until Tuesday, January 28 at 10 a.m.